Oh, right. So, some months ago, I had recommended to you to play and stream Ghost of Tsushima, and you did. So, I wanted to ask, what were your thoughts?
Oh boy, do I have a lot of thoughts for this game. Um, where do I even begin with this one? Seriously. Well,
Um,
actually, no. No, I know the perfect starting point.
go ahead.
It is cinematic as heck.
I told you.
Oh my god. That was literally like like that was one of the points that you emphasized the most. And I was like, okay, but what exactly does that mean? Cinematic. And then I played the game, and for all intents and purposes, it is it pretty much plays out like a damn movie, obviously, except for like the segments in which uh there's gameplay, and as you're like traveling like through the world and such. But even then, there were like these shots like as you are riding on your horse that like all of a sudden you can just see across the landscape, and everything is so beautiful and crystal clear, whether it be the day or the night or like dusk or dawn, like it doesn't matter. It was, from a visual standpoint, just beautiful. The detail in this game, dude. Oh my god. Something as simple as just like literally going on like a light stroll or something on your horse can still feel like it is like coming from straight out of a movie, like as filler or something. And I was never bored with it because I just loved the visual spectacle that was presented there on screen. And then even like when you transition away from the points where you're just like, moving from place to place within Tsushima, when you actually go into the fights and when you actually go into the cutscenes, even more examples of its cinematography are present. Every aspect of it, dude, it was incredible. And I was just so like, I was so visually stunned with it too. And here's the thing as well, because when I was streaming Ghost of Tsushima, I was streaming its director's cut on my PS5. I have no idea of like how much of a potential downgrade it must be from PS4, but I'm only imagining because I'm pretty sure that um PS4 version came out first before PS5. But I'm still kind of like imagining if I were to go ahead and play last gen's version, is there going to be that much of a massive difference, or is it just going to be like a very minimal difference and it still ends up being a very beautiful looking game?
What year did the PS5 come out?
Didn't that come out in, shoot, what was it?
20,
2020?
20 might have, because Tsushima, Ghost of Tsushima came out in 2020 on PS4, and the director's cut, which is specifically PS5, came out 1 year later.
Was it specifically on PS5? Because I could have sworn that you could still play it on PS4. In fact, I'm pretty sure that that's what my brother told me. It's like he, because I remember at one point, because I was gathering like just some footage for the game, and he came in, literally looked at my screen, and not screen, and literally looked at it and was just looking at it in awe for like a solid 10 seconds of pure silence.
My correction, yeah, there are PS4 versions of the director's cut.
Okay, then yes, that's exactly what my brother played first. And then when he came into my room and saw what I was playing, and I was playing it on the PS5 version, he was just like incredibly awestruck with the visual upgrades for this. And I'm just thinking to myself, is it really that big of a massive difference? Because that's crazy. My goodness.
Because what I was watching from your stream did not look much different from what I was playing on the PC port on Steam.
That kind of sounds actually, no, that's a good thing, right? I mean, playing on PC usually means the greatest the graphical fidelity, right? So
Yeah,
for okay, fine, depending on your setup, I suppose.
yes, but let's be real. Graphics are not everything.
True, but for some people they are.
We call those people no-lifers.
Oh gosh. But when you told me that this game was a cinematic experience, like what exactly like were you hoping for me to like for me to see within the game? Like what was something that like you had in mind that was like, "Oh my God, like when she sees this, it's gonna amaze her or something."
So you know that I work not necessarily in the film industry, but that is the field that I am aiming for as someone who edits and produces videos online. So, knowing how to work the camera, that's something that I'm more in tune with compared to you, admittedly, compared to you. So, a few examples for Ghost of Tsushima. Um, in film, we call this a hip shot, and it's very common in especially in Western movies. It's usually when they emphasize the gun and the holster, because it's usually held on the hip. But as you saw in Ghost of Tsushima, especially during the duels, there was the shot of their hands and the katanas still sheath.
Yes. Where you can, see that they're, readying themselves. And then like literally often in the background you can still see like your opponent also getting ready, and then that's when the camera like shifts focus to seeing them a lot more clearly, and then it completely changes perspective to now showing them on the opposite field and then back to Jin Sakai. And I'm
Yes,
like,
specifically the moment where he puts his hand on the katana and he just uses his thumb to slide it up. That is a
yes.
that is a hip shot. And the one that is very common throughout the whole game would be like a wide shot, an establishing shot. Honestly, it's much more simple to just actually show you, but it's when there is a lot being shown all at once. It's usually when all the nature, all the trees, the flowers, the grass that you're riding through, that's all being displayed at once.
So essentially you're saying that that's the camera that's being used for whenever you're just kind of like traversing through the open world, correct? I'm understanding this correctly?
Mm,
Or is it specifically a still shot from a fixed like point of view?
no, not always.
Man, you use these terminology and I'm like, I'm just a simple mind here. I played the game. I can see, how there are so many aspects, so many instances in this game where it does legitimately feel like a movie, but I can't put it into the technical words the way that you can. I can only describe certain memories, certain like cutscenes, certain moments where like I was just so impressed with the camera that it basically felt as though I wasn't even playing a game. I was like basically watching a movie play out. Except I have a controller in my hands and I can actually feel the vibrations. I can actually control the input of certain actions and just kind of like hope for the best that this can somehow contribute to said cinematic experience playing out on my screen.
I just remembered.
Yeah.
So here's an example of a wide shot, and of course we're going to talk about spoilers. So you remember at the very end the duel with your uncle. How right before the fight there is that moment where you see both of them. It's a still camera. You see both of them walk away from each other and then turn around.
Oh.
That's a wide shot.
Oh.
Even in the very beginning, where it starts in where the camera it starts staring at the sky and the camera pans downward and you see these grassy hills with samurais on their horses.
Oh, you're talking about the beginning of the game?
Yes, that is an example of a wide shot also acting as an establishing shot because it is establishing the setting.
God, you know what? You just remind me how, like, literally at the beginning of the game when you are given the like the settings and you can see like, the night sky, you can see the flags in the background and maybe like some embers flying through the air or whatever. And it like, asks you like, okay, what language do you want to play this in and what cinematic experience would you like to play this in? And then it's like I go all the way to like the last option is like freaking Kurosawa mode or something. It's just all black and white
Hmm.
and gray and everything. I think that was that moment when I had picked out every single one of my settings that I need, and then like those what do you call the black strips or something? They slowly pan out and then it goes straight into like the cutscene itself.
Small things like that are just really amazing because
Agreed.
it's a smooth transition from the menus into like the official game. It's
Yes,
it's not
absolutely.
it's not a fade to black loading screen. It is immediately jump into the game, jump into immersion.
Exactly. There's not a single point that makes you feel like it just pauses the experience. It just flows so effortlessly into the game itself. And especially when you start the battle from like literally the point to which the cutscene ends to where you are, like just riding towards the Mongol army on the beach. That right there was, oh my god, that was such an insane transition. I still remember my reaction from back then when all of a sudden I'm given control from watching just a simple cutscene, well, not simple in this case, but watching a cutscene just play out to now fully feeling the vibrations of my controller as I am riding my horse straight into battle. Like, what the heck, man? And here's the thing. I know that this isn't like necessarily the first game that does that per se, but me and like my PlayStation roster, I do know that at least in my experience, I think the very first time that I ever known of like this concept or I've ever been like truly, truly, truly made like aware of it was I want to say the Uncharted games. Because even they had this ability to like, go uh from cutscenes and then transition like, straight into the gameplay itself. I think more prominently it was made a lot more fluid in the fourth one. And then you go over to, games like I want to say it was the newest God of Wars, which is exactly what I believe the director for that game was like, okay, this right here, this mere concept is exactly what I want to do for this game. And people thought it couldn't be pulled off for whatever reason. I'm not sure. And then you go into Ghost of Tsushima here, and it's like, dude, this concept is literally what helps make the whole experience feel so cinematic. It makes you feel just be so engaged with the entire experience to allow me that opportunity to never break my immersion is beautiful. Ghost of Tsushima always, always manages to accomplish that. And I think that that's what impresses me so much with the technicality of it. The fact that I can kind of lose myself in whether or not I'm playing a game or I'm watching a movie, and it's just a beautiful blend. It was amazing. It really does elevate that whole feeling of it being a cinematic experience. And I'm just talking generically, I'm just talking in broad terms about it. You know, all of the, I don't know if like all of the camera tricks per se, all of like the shots, neat, like, to be able to describe exactly like how this feels like a movie. But for somebody like me, just somebody who plays these games for fun, for the enjoyment of it, that's just how it felt. It just felt like a very free flowing experience, and I was so impressed with it. I loved that about Ghost of Tsushima. I loved how that was one of the aspects that makes me remember that game so freaking fondly, because it felt like way more than just a game. I mean, would you agree with that?
Yes, but I will admit that there has been quite a bit of criticism about PlayStation, all these PlayStation games being a bit too cinematic. Like, they are like trying their damnness to be like the next Hollywood. With God of War, Last of Us, now Ghost of Tsushima. Like, when are we gonna go back to something simpler, like Astrobot?
Where they're not cinematic in any way. It's just literally a game. Look, your little avatar is in there. Go have fun. Go crazy with it.
Yeah,
Be a kid.
because admittedly, while a lot of these games do look good, uh, you can't help but feel like this very cinematic experience, along with all these very detailed models and textures, these do contribute to these very, very lengthy development cycles that we have been experiencing. Because it took how long between Last of Us 1 and 2?
You know what? I'm forgetting the year that they started like actual production on The Last of Us. But okay, let's say, like from 2013 when the game was released all the way to what was it, 2020 when the second game was released. Yeah, let's just say that 7 years more or less.
Oh, well,
It did take a while.
actually, I'm not sure if that's the fairest example, since there was Uncharted 4 in between those two.
That is true. Yeah, you're right. That is true.
But still, if you want to go back to PlayStation 1, 1997, we got Final Fantasy 7, 98, we got Final Fantasy 8, 99 was Final Fantasy 9. I can't remember if the North American release was in 2000, but anyways, point is that you had those three games come out back to back to back, year to year to year. And today's games, sequel or a brand new IP, for these AAA studios, it's very lengthy. It goes 5+ years.
That is true. Yeah. I'm not necessarily saying that like, this needs to be like the norm. This needs to be the standard for, games to be like as perfect and polished and cinematic as heck for all intents and purposes. But I'm just saying that like, for what they accomplished here, it was beautiful. It was great. But
Uh,
there is no denying, like what you said, it has had a pretty bad effect to where now we have to wait years and years and years for us to get any sort of continuation with these games.
well, I fully agree. But personally, my take is for every God of War, every Ghost of Tsushima, we need we need games like Astrobot, Hades, Hollow Knight to just fill in that waiting time.
I like how now you mentioned Hollow Knight because Silksong literally just released this month.
Well, we're recording this on the official release day of Hades 2.
That too. Yes.
But one more thing that's still adjacent to the cinematography topic was that you and I this summer we watched Akira Kurosawa's Ron. And Kurosawa was a big inspiration for the cinematography in Ghost of Tsushima.
Like I mentioned before, there literally is an entire mode named after him. So yeah,
Yes,
definitely.
you were able to draw the parallels from Ghost of Tsushima to Ron.
I was. It's not necessarily like identical or anything, but you can definitely see like, where they got the inspiration to make certain shots happen within the game to make it feel like you're essentially both playing and watching, for all intents and purposes, a Kurosawa film.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm still, oh god, I don't know if we should talk spoilers for that movie.
For Ron?
I mean, like, not everybody's watched it,
Oh,
right?
oh, no. In fact, it's actually, in my opinion, one of his most underrated films. Every time I look up anything about Kurosawa films, it's always about Seven Samurai, Throne of Blood, Rashomon, and even Yojimbo. It's like, why is no one talking about Ron? To be fair, this was our first Kurosawa film, so I think especially me, I have that immediate bias of why is no one talking about this really good film? And chances are, for the average Kurosawa enjoyer, they would probably just say that Ron is just the appetizer. Maybe. I don't know, I'm making assumptions.
Buddy, if Ron was an appetizer, my goodness. That is one heck of an appetizer. You could basically it's like basically saying that oh you got like basically an entire meal with just the damn appetizer.
Yes.
It was that good.
So now I am very curious for Seven Samurai and Yojimbo.
Oh, definitely. And I'm still thinking back to that entire siege sequence. And yeah, I can definitely draw the parallels for like, certain shots, certain things that, happen within that sequence to the game. It was definitely very visceral to like actually to see stuff like that happen within Ghost of Tsushima, but to see it like being shown in a purely movie format was pretty eye opening. It was pretty wild for me for this being like my first Kurosawa film, and I just couldn't help but I couldn't stop thinking about like oh my goodness like it's just so faithful to this genre like this movie and then like moving over to the game like this game was just such a love letter. I've only seen one film and I can already see the similarities, the inspirations, and I'm only just going to continue to wonder what else they pulled from the rest of the films in order to make this game appear the way that it does on screen, and to play out the way that it does in a video game. I think that that's the one point about Ghost of Tsushima that I'm always gonna like have to keep reminding myself is that like whether it be to a detriment or whether it be to a benefit or maybe like somewhere in between, going back to the discussion of like oh like the criticism of them becoming like more cinematic experiences like yeah I have to keep reminding myself like yeah this is actually a game. I am actually playing a video game. I actually have a controller in my hands to influence how certain combat encounters play out, how certain levels are going to play out, how certain points of view within the, I guess the NPCs are going to have on me within the story. I still think about that every single time Ghost of Tsushima comes, into my mind. That is actually a video game. It's not a movie. It's a game. That's basically my entire mindset when it comes to Ghost of Tsushima overall.
Now I'm curious what you would be saying about the Metal Gear series.
Okay, look. I don't know if I ever mentioned this on any of our other podcast episodes, but look, I started Metal Gear Solid at the very end of the
Oh,
story.
yeah, your brother made the terrible recommendation of starting with MGS4.
I think, to be fair, I can't entirely blame him because it's like, it was an incredibly cool game to play. The mechanics to it were just insane, but also that's where I got introduced to the whole, running gag of Kojima where his cutscenes are basically go an amount up to freaking hours with the footage. I can't say that I necessarily regret doing that, but I am admittedly rather grateful that this game didn't play out to the insane degree that Metal Gear Solid did as a series.
Fair.
Is at least this game does find a good balance to where yes, I am playing a game, but I'm also experiencing video game elements within the parts that feel like a movie. I couldn't be able to do that with the Metal Gear Solid series then. I'm not even sure if you're able to do that even with the 3 remake out by now. That's just kind of like, speculation on my part, but I can say at the very least, with my exposure to Metal Gear Solid 4, these two games are insanely different to how they balance the movie and the video game aspects. Ghost of Tsushima is a good balance. Metal Gear Solid, at least from what I remember, didn't really do that all that well. I've had to watch hours upon hours of cutscenes, and granted, hours upon hours of cutscenes of stuff that made absolutely no sense because I just kept getting revealed to a bunch of characters that were supposedly like a big, big, big deal. I had no idea what I was supposed to be doing, if I was supposed to be like in shock and awe, or if I was supposed to be happy, mad, or whatever. It wasn't exactly an easy experience to digest, but at least with Ghost of Tsushima, it was. And that's at least one aspect to this game that I am very grateful for. I don't know if that kind of necessarily will be easy for like, people that don't really play video games very often. Like I'm not sure if this would be like a game that I necessarily recommend to them to try out. It's like, oh, if you don't play games that often but you want, still like a cool experience that kind of feels like a movie, maybe go ahead play like Ghost of Tsushima. Because usually I would say do that, but play Uncharted because even those feel like cinematic experiences.
There is an argument that these more cinematic games are easier for non gamers to get into, and that is because it is so much like another medium that they are familiar with, which is films.
Like, haha, we got you into a medium that you always thought was really stupid. I always think that little a bit of a potential like counterpoint is always like kind of funny to think about. But yeah, there is no denying that this game at its core, if like anybody can be able to describe this game at least in one word, it is going to be, cinematic.
Mm-hmm.
That's probably the universal term that people are going to like, choose to just describe this game. Whether that be a good thing or whether that be a bad thing, that's just up to, certain points of view. I think that for what it is, and for it being such a love letter to, this culture, to this film style, especially with, somebody as renowned like Kurosawa, it did work. It did work very well in its favor. What would you think?
I would think that Ghost of Tsushima could also be described as Assassin's Creed Shadows before Assassin's Creed Shadows.
I was wondering when you were going to bring that up. Bringing that up so many times during my streams too. I, I never stopped chuckling that at that, I swear.
Actually, I do have a genuine question.
Hmm.
As you, who has much experience with the Assassin's Creed series, how was the stealthing in AC compared to Ghost of Tsushima?
Okay, so now we're moving on to gameplay. Okay.
Well, we're trying to hit all the marks, right?
Yes, that is very true. And on yet another technical aspect of Ghost of Tsushima, but leaning more into the video game side of things. Compared to Assassin's Creed, I think that they definitely play very similarly, but I do feel as though here's kind of like where I have a little bit of I might get a little bit too technical when I explain my thoughts on this, but Ghost of Tsushima executes it better in a realistic, at least close to a realistic fashion as possible, whereas Assassin's Creed, it can do that, but there's more elements within the environment itself that make it feel like it's more video gamey. There's no, like bales of hay that you can hide in. There's no whistling to which you can be able to like um attract enemies like, over to you and just like, like stab them and like have them hide in like the bale of hay or anything. Like at least when it comes to Ghost of Tsushima, you have to be even more careful because you can't just go up to a body and pick it up and then just like dump it over in a place where no other NPC can be able to view it. Stuff like that set Assassin's Creed as way more of a video game, and Ghost of Tsushima taking elements of that out. It was a little frustrating to me at first because it's like, oh, I could easily do this so that I can make my gameplay experience be a lot more um it make a lot more sense. But at the same time, like working with what I could, it flows kind of better in my opinion. Like it does what Assassin's Creed does, but in a more fluid manner. And it's not like, just pressing certain button prompts for things to happen. No, you have to actually like plan out this stuff. And it was great. Genuinely think that at least gameplay wise, they are very similar. I just like the way that Ghost of Tsushima executed it a little bit more. Granted though, I do have to put a little bit of a disclaimer on this. The last Assassin's Creed game that I played was Odyssey, and that one was insanely RPG-ish. As far as I can tell, Valhalla carried the same thing. Mirage tried to bring it back to its roots. I'm not sure if it was successful in doing that or not. And then Assassin's Creed Shadows, I'm trying my best to stay away from Assassin's Creed Shadows, to be perfectly honest. I kind of don't want to waste my time with it just because I'm not that interested in it. I'm not even sure if Ubisoft has actually gotten to a point where now their combat feels smooth like what you play out in Ghost of Tsushima.
I'm thinking back to my experiences because I have not played any of the Assassin's Creed games. So, what stealth games have I played, or at least have some kind of stealth aspect? Metal Gear Solid 3, Cyberpunk 2077, and there is a single instance of a stealth mission in Zelda Wind Waker. And I feel like it's a very small sample size. But even with those three, I want to say that Ghost of Tsushima has like probably the easiest stealthing, and I wonder if that's because of how open it tends to be, especially in Metal Gear Solid 3, where you are navigating. A lot of the times, you're navigating in in hallways, in these laboratories, uh, in this jungle with occasional shrubbery. Ghost of Tsushima, you could climb on top of huts, on these walls, these barricades. There's a lot of high ground for you to take advantage of. That these other three examples, MGS3, Cyberpunk, and Wind Waker, you don't really get that luxury.
And here's kind of the thing that, because I'm really struggling to like really put it to words when I'm making comparisons between the Assassin's Creed series for me, at least up to the point of Odyssey, and then with Ghost of Tsushima. Assassin's Creed has way too many markers within its gameplay to make it way too technical. There's always going to be like, like there's always going to be reminders that if you are going to stealth within like a certain area, you cannot leave outside of the bounds of the area that you are in. I don't think I ever really recall any instance of that happening in Ghost of Tsushima. Like, yes, when as you are exploring the open world and you come within the vicinity of, like maybe you'll get like a notification on screen being like new Mongol outpost discovered or something like that. And it's like, where the heck is it? And then you turn your camera around and it's like, oh shoot, it's a fortified logging camp. Oh, okay. I'm pretty far away from it. How the heck did I activate the sequence? When it comes to like actually playing out going into these areas and then accomplishing like these side objectives, and even if you have to like, take the fight out of these fortified camps, you're still able to go a very far distance to where you can play around with the environments and, dispatch of your enemies however else you like. But in the Assassin's Creed series, you could never do that. There was always like, these barriers that would pop up being like, "Oh, go back to mission area else you're going to be kicked out in like T minus 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, whatever." Every single game that I had played up to that point always had something like that. Never felt that in Ghost of Tsushima. And so I was able to just go ahead and like just kind of like get a little creative with how I want to proceed with clearing out this entire camp. Do I just want to go ahead, knock on the front door, let them know that I am here, therefore I can like duel as many of them as possible, and then go freaking crazy with dispatching the rest of the camp? Or do I just want to like do it old fashioned but also fun, stealthily? Like go find some kind of an opening within the fence, go through, navigate my way through like the shrubbery, activate that what was it? That listening mode, I think. I forget exactly what it was called in Ghost of Tsushima, but it's like where you can be able to like see like the red outlines of your enemies, kind of study their movements a little bit and then find the precise opening that you need to like, go over to certain hiding spots. That aspect right there, way more fluid than anything I ever truly remember from the Assassin's Creed games. The enemy movements of Ghost of Tsushima, yes, they were, programmed, but they had like, more areas that they could be able to just kind of like go to kind of throw you off in your plan of like, okay, when they move, to this certain spot A or whatever, I'm gonna move over to that shrubbery right there. Oh wait, they didn't. This kind of throws my entire plan off. I've had instances like that happen to me in my playthrough, and it just kind of it felt a lot more dynamic than what I was used to. And that, like, throwing a wrench in my plans really kept me on my toes, and I genuinely enjoyed it for that. It could definitely be frustrating sometimes, but being able to kind of, like, innovate on the spot how I want to carry out my plan to complete an objective, I loved that. Because there's a lot more variety on how you can kill your enemies, on how you can, blow up the camp, whatever other side objectives come up. There's a lot more variety to how you can do it. And in Assassin's Creed titles, it's like there's literally you have some amount of freedom, but it's like everybody has this sort of unspoken rule within the community that's like, don't bother, just do this route and you're good. You don't have to, think too much about it. You can just breeze through the levels as quickly as you want, and it works out fine every single time. Like, that's not fun. And with Ghost of Tsushima, it's just so much easier to be able to enjoy having that variety in its gameplay. I can only hope that, like with these later titles, they actually improved on that. But if they haven't, because Mirage came out with some very middling reviews, and honestly, Assassin's Creed Shadows is so far off of my mind. I don't even know how it did, like review score wise. Um, some people, enjoyed it. Some people didn't want to give it a chance. Anywhere in between, I genuinely do not know. But the only thing that people ever talked about when it came to Assassin's Creed Shadows were just, some story memes and the fact that, oh, there is a much better Assassin's Creed Shadows game that is already out, and that's Ghost of Tsushima. Like, just play that and you're good. You don't need to buy this game for like $70. I'm not necessarily sure if I'm inclined to agree with it, but I would definitely believe that people can have and do still hold to that mindset. I can see it. This game is a lot of fun. And there's so many elements to the Assassin's Creed franchise that just makes it feel like, why would you even want to bother playing Shadows? Just play this one. The only way that I'll ever bring myself to play Shadows is out of like legit morbid curiosity to see if any progress has been made on its modern storyline. But that's a whole discussion that I'm not even gonna remotely get into. Like, bottom line, at least for me to and like go towards your question, in comparison to the Assassin's Creed series, I do enjoy the fluidity, the variation that comes with Ghost of Tsushima more than the formulaic process of Assassin's Creed that I've come to expect from that series for pretty much ever, to be perfectly honest.
All right. Thank you for your answer.
You're welcome.
Okay, so how about the sword play?
It was very fun, incredibly engaging. It always kept you on your toes with the variety of enemies that will come at you and the numerous stances that you have to switch between on the fly in order to deal with them. There was never any kind of standard encounter. There was always at least some kind of a mix-up when it comes to um, the the enemies that you fight, even as you are going and exploring through the open world. I think I personally legitimately enjoyed that a lot. It was a hassle in the beginning to like adjust myself to having to like, uh switch on the D-pad, like, okay, I'm gonna use water stance, I'm gonna use wind stance, and so on and so forth, just to be able to like uh fight against certain enemies. But then, as more time went on and I got more used to the controls, it really opened up uh an entire world of possibilities on how I can handle myself in combat. And it was great. Being able to, like switch the stances on the fly like that, beautiful. I personally don't think that I have been able to do an encounter where all of a sudden I just accomplish like the absolute perfect uh combat encounter where it's like I can switch like, perfectly, like, at certain key points in time to get to certain enemies, like a freaking like the imagery that I have in my mind right now is essentially like what do you call Virgil's famous attack
What,
where it's like,
dimension cut? Judgment cut?
yeah, there you go. There you go. Like, I'm not like that per se in any of the combat encounters that I've done in Ghost of Tsushima, but you can damn well near get to something close like that where you never get hit, you only ever land hits on your enemies, and you just come out of it like it's perfect. That's perfectly possible. I just haven't been able to do that. And I can only imagine for the harder difficulties, you have to do that. Because enemies are going to hit way harder, maybe even the one hit kill, if I remember correctly. Lethal
Oh,
mode, right?
yes, yes, lethal mode.
Oh, I haven't gotten around to lethal mode, but I swear I still remember the what was it that I said I was gonna do sometime in the future is the Spanish dub, um freaking, what is it? Freaking Jinsakai battling in like wearing no armor whatsoever, and then in lethal mode. I forgot what it
Oh,
was that we had dubbed that.
oh, like the naked run?
Yeah, the naked Spanish dub run.
Yes.
Naked Spanish lethal mode. There you go. That is a challenge. If I ever get around to that, hopefully sometime in the near future, that's gonna be a lot of fun. Maybe then I'll actually live up to the more realistic version of Virgil's judgment cut.
Those cutscenes are gonna be so weird.
You can just imagine in the NPC's minds, it's like, why are you not wearing anything? It's snowing outside. You're going to die of hypothermia.
I guess the adrenaline rush will warm him.
But I'm imagining the trial and error that's going to happen in here, and who cares? I'm for it. And then what about you? What was the swordplay like for you? How did you like it? Or maybe
Uh,
what didn't you like about it, if anything at all?
I thought it was serviceable. It got its job done. The thing about the sword play, like the stance switching, is that a lot of it felt kind of rock paper scissor ish. They got a spear, go to wind stance. They got a shield, go to water stance. So yes, it does keep you on your toes, especially when it's a whole group. But thankfully, the game is designed in a way where even if you're surrounded by a mob of enemies, it is primarily like a 1v1.
Like, not all of them rush you at once. At
Yeah,
least not all the time.
yeah, it's not a Devil May Cry or a Dynasty Warriors. But I do think that the addition that helped my experience was all these side weapons like the kunais, the smoke bombs, what else? The sticky bomb.
Because I'm remembering all of the tools that you use for, like, to aid you in stealth before you actually go into, like, full blown combat. I think later on, even, like, you do get access to, like, what was it, the meteor sword or something like that? Like a
Oh,
flame sword?
yes. Yeah, where you set your sword on fire.
But then for whatever reason, so can the Mongols. It's like, excuse me, I had to climb up an entire freaking mountain, nearly freezing to death. How were the rest of you able to do that?
But did you learn your firebending techniques from a meteor?
From a meteor.
Yeah,
I
that.
was given to them by a meteor. But no, I was taught by somebody guarding said meteor.
Yeah, that's the source of your firebending power. It came from a meteor from outer space. Where did the Mongols learn their firebending? At camp? Pathetic.
They are beneath. Like, you did not learn it the cool way. We did. Seriously, where the heck did they get it? Even some form of it. They shouldn't have been able to do that. unless they unless they go like the route of, oh, let's just douse our swords in oil and just put fire on it.
That is still very likely. And plus,
But
I'm also thinking about the big dudes with like the cannons.
oh my god, yes.
Yes, these very ancient shotguns. Like,
How are they carrying the ammo for this on them at all times?
can I get one of those?
Good grief. Wow, you want to cause some destruction, don't you?
Hey, you need every advantage you can get. That is why we picked up the bow, the smoke bombs, the sticky bombs, the kunais.
That's why we dropped the honor.
I am reminded that you chose the bad ending.
No! Why'd you have to bring that up? Look, I thought. I'm gonna say this in my defense. I genuinely thought that if I had spared him, that would have been the bad ending. I'm literally following my uncle's wishes, therefore, it ought to be at least some kind of a good thing, right? No. Bad ending. Like, geez, that's the last time I listened to my elders.
So after that, did you go out of your way to look up the good ending, the mercy
Nope, not
ending?
at all.
Okay.
Shall I do so, or should I leave that for my Spanish lethal naked run?
Um, I guess you could, cause otherwise,
You know.
cause I chose the mercy ending, and Jin drops a very hard line, and then it just cuts to the credits.
Oh, you're not gonna tell me what it is, are you?
Do you want to know? Cause it will really put into perspective why the mercy ending's a good ending.
You know what? I have a lot of games that I need to get to anyways. Just go ahead and tell me.
Okay,
I love how you jumped at that opportunity. It's like, okay.
so you've bested your uncle in combat. He, well, I don't exactly remember word for word what he says. It was along the lines of honor me with the warrior's death. And Jin tells him, I have no honor, but I will not kill my family. And he walks away. End credits.
Oh my god. Eat that, uncle.
Still better than Ichikawa.
Oh man. No, that is a good line. That is a good line. Because for all intents and purposes, that spits in the face of every single bit of nonsense that his uncle has been spouting about Jin being a dishonorable fool. Like, dude, you may call me dishonorable, but I'm not doing the thing that will bring the most dishonor.
He has good intentions behind his dishonorable actions.
And I genuinely wonder if that's something that his uncle will, like, ever truly accept. Or if his pride will just be like, it'll just stick with him till the end of his days. I would genuinely believe it if those words just haunted him for the rest of his life, which it absolutely will. Let's be real.
Very likely. Perhaps that's a reason why people wanted Tsushima 2 and not a brand new entry with a new character.
If anything, I kind of would have expected that perhaps Iki Island would have given us a little bit of insight into what happened to your uncle. But the fact that like Iki Island can be, played just kind of
During the main
while
story.
exactly, I feel like that was something of a missed opportunity. But I can't exactly, blame Sucker Punch for, doing this because it's like you can access the DLC whenever you want. Just, the accessibility of it is good and all. It's just from a story perspective, especially for the people that wanted Ghost of Tsushima 2, it would have been good to just kind of know the aftermath of what happens to your last living relative and what his mindsets are on basically your actions in sparing him.
Hmm.
Shoot, I want to know if the Shogun lets him live.
I'm wondering if by some chance either the Ghost of Tsushima anime or the live action movie is actually a continuation. It is an epilogue, and we get those answers.
Oh, you reminded me of those. Shoot, dude. I was so focused on freaking Sekiro anime that I completely forgot they had plans for Ghost of Tsushima.
Mm-hmm. And
Wow.
reminder that, well, who was it? The creator or director of John Wick is involved with the movie. And as I learned, I think like last week, was the writer for Fate Zero is gonna be involved for the Ghost of Tsushima anime.
Oh, this is gonna be sick. Fate Zero is my favorite in that franchise.
Reminder that the creator or the writer of Fate Zero also wrote Madoka Magica.
Yes! Oh my god, this is gonna be so good! Oh my god, I want to say they can't mess this up, but I'm gonna knock on wood anyways. One, two, three. There we go.
I will join you. One, two, three.
Yay! Alrighty, we went on a little bit of a tangent because I remember we were talking. So we did talk a little bit about like more or less the ending and just kind of like the writing quality of it. But that came from a little bit of a tangent from like the sword play, the for gameplay specifically. I do definitely, like agree with you. It's like at the very least it was definitely serviceable, but I do appreciate that like on the fly I've had to learn to switch between different weapons, especially when I am surrounded by, enemies of many of like, different weapon styles. But and here's the thing that really like kicks it up a notch. Then I don't think you've been able to experience this because I remember correctly, you did not play Iki Island,
No.
correct?
Nope.
Well, Iki Island, if you happen to remember from when I streamed that game or that DLC, every single one of the enemies now has the ability to change their their own weapons on the fly.
Yes.
They can be able to go from spears, they can go to swords and shields, they can literally change themselves so often, so frequently. That was really what ended up keeping you on your toes in that DLC.
I think that was a great addition, and I hope that that is kept for Yotei.
Me too. Me too. I know that we got to see like, some gameplay for Ghost of Yotei pretty recently, but I don't think that that's something that they would want to spoil or like to spoil for like the gameplay trailer. I want that to actually be a surprise. It's like, "Oh my god, yes." Either early on or probably a little bit later on in the game, like they will keep that element of having enemies that can just switch up their styles and just, make you really work to defeat them.
Or,
But I don't want it to be like, I don't want it to be like, artificial to where it's like, oh, they just have more health and they do more damage. No, just like keep it versatile in how they fight you. That's it. Fair but versatile. Then what were you gonna say?
uh, or you can just pull out the boomstick, the rifle.
Oh yeah, that's true, right? Yeah, because they do have they did introduce the guns in here, didn't they?
For Yotei, yes. Although we
Yeah,
we did see those Mongols with those oversized shotguns.
true. Yeah. But yeah, I think that definitely like Iki Island so like, to your not necessarily like a complaint per se, but to your point about like it did feel like, serviceable and it feeling like the rock paper scissors thing, like at least Iki Island was able to address that and be able to come up with like a good, answer to that concern. And I was really thankful for that. I genuinely enjoyed my time with it. And heck, I feel bad because like, now that I mentioned Iki Island, it's like I would like to talk about, its story and its implementation into like the main game. It's just only one of us has played it.
Well, I watch you
So I don't
stream
know.
it.
It's true. Definitely true. Actually, would that be a good segue? Well, actually, hold on, because there is something that I did want to talk about, like in regards to like the gameplay aspect before we move on to talking about the story. So, what did you think about the whole guiding wind system?
Very creative. Cause I'm trying to think of like other navigation systems for games. Cause so with
Outside,
Xenoblade and Elder Scrolls, it's like these markers at the both on the map and also at the top of your screen. So
Where it's like you can see like a sort of compass, and then like if you know you pan your camera around to certain directions, that's where you can see the marker like leading you into that direction, correct?
Yes.
Gotcha. Yes, I remember that.
So the fact that Ghost of Tsushima just lets it be the wind, a natural part of the environment, I'm surprised no one else has already thought of this.
Yeah, agreed. Absolutely. And heck, you know what? Because I'm thinking over to the Red Dead games. They don't even, from what I remember in Red, at least in Red Dead 2, because that's the one that I played most recently. I don't think that they actually give you any markers at all. You have to like go over to your map to see like okay, which area on the map here am I gonna, like go to, and then it'll, if you like, click on a certain point, you put a marker, and then it'll like show you the path. I think you can enable the mini map. You can make it, like really small, you can make it really big, so that it doesn't take away like, from your immersion into the game itself. But um but yeah, like when it comes to Ghost of Tsushima, no mini map whatsoever. And if you genuinely wanted to go to a very specific point, you can set it, and then you can press like I think one of the directional buttons, I think, or at least with my PS5 controller, I think all I had to do was just swipe on the touchpad, and it would let
Yes.
me like, actually go towards said objective.
Yeah, I remember it being the touchpad.
And definitely the execution of it is legitimately cool. Also, I find it really hilarious how it's like I'm constantly making the wind go and go and go. It's like, is there a hurricane coming in? Because this wind is not letting up whatsoever. um, it's definitely creative. I think that I would say probably after I beat the game and after I did Iki Island, that's when just kind of like off stream I decided to go ahead and do this to see like, what it was that I am missing for like 100% completion of like all the collectibles, all like weapon skins and whatnot. I had a lot left that I was missing. But here's the issue that came with the whole guiding wind system was that it can be pretty difficult to find the specific items that you are looking for. So if you like go into like the pause menu and you go over to where you can set the wind to specifically guide you over to let's say the next Mongol artifact or something. It will try to take you to the nearest one, but if you are in an area where you've already collected everything, it will not work. And then if you move on to, other areas, it might work, but the places that they take you to will end up being like, locations that there's just so many obstacles that you have to like, look deep into. Like there's so much to the environment that you just don't know whether or not like it's camouflaged or if it is just, hiding behind a rock that you've like, never looked behind before. It's pretty difficult to find certain things. And that wind guiding system, it guides you to that general area, and it does force you to really explore your environments. The issue is that there weren't enough like visual markers, like say like the little crickets, for example, the little fireflies that would pop up to let you like really know like okay, this is where the item is. Like those little markers would only pop up for like, very very specific items. If you wanted to go ahead and like legitimately collect everything in that game, just coming from like, my own personal experience, I didn't finish collecting everything, but you got to be really patient. You got to
Yes.
be you got to have an eagle eye when it comes to this stuff. There is a lot of letters, a lot of Mongol artifacts, a lot of weapon skins, so much of everything. This world is littered with it. And if you want to go ahead to collect all of it, get used to the fast traveling, get used to the horseback riding to go from place to place to place to place to place. and get used to all of that, itty bitty exploration to find all of this stuff. Me personally, I was just kind of like it got old pretty fast. If I didn't have to collect all of like these, like these weapon skins, I was like, you know what? Might maybe want to come back to it, but right now it was a very tedious process in my personal experience. You got to be extremely patient with it, and I'm pretty patient. That's one nitpick that I can give towards like, finding specifically the collectibles of the game. And let me tell you, I'm actually rather happy. I did not have to find every single one of them for the game's platinum. I only had to find like, what was it? 20, I think? 20 Mongol artifacts in order to progress towards the game's platinum. Like it was just like a lot more of like like a freer like a better flowing experience for me to just like enjoy the game and enjoy getting my platinum. And that was it. That tedious aspect being taken out, I think would definitely work towards Ghost of Tsushima's benefit, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
And then and on the topic of like the exploration of it, I don't know, do you remember the very first time that like you've actually had to like legit climb to like the top of towers in order to find certain collectibles? As I do. And I had no idea I could do it.
I was thinking of when you climb the lighthouses, how sometimes there will be something up there, usually
It's like
like leather or some
sort
extra.
of, yeah. Because I remember my very first time I was in, what was that one temple that you make it to on the second part of Tsushima in the second act? It's like Ara Arashima or something like that. I forget exactly what it was called, but basically where you see the warrior monk Norio,
Mm-hmm.
and there's always a yellow bird that like flows over or flies over to like a very rundown temple, and I'm always thinking to myself, why the hell is this one bird going towards this temple? I've combed through it so many times until I literally look at one of the corners. It's like, the hell's a white piece of cloth doing? Oh, I jump up, press the button prompt to climb up to it, and then boom, it's right freaking there. And then that's when it gives me the realization, it's like, oh, there's way more. There's so much more to the climbing, the exploration mechanics in this game than I thought. And it really just like, it really opened my mind to how much more interactive with this environment this game can get,
Especially with
which did
the
work.
collectibles blending in naturally.
Yes. So it's like a it's a benefit, and it's also a detriment. It's a benefit in the sense that it is very detailed. It's a detriment for those that do not have the eagle eye to be able to spot stuff like this. I could have gone the entire game without ever knowing that this was available to me. But once I found that out, it just made me appreciate the game more. And that's like a nitpick to the gameplay that I think worked pretty cool, honestly. And speaking of like how detailed this this game was, and just how interactive everything got, how did you think like the story was handled on this island of Tsushima? Because I thought it was a good story.
I mean, yes, but I'm not a fan of just saying, yeah, it's good and end it there.
No, me neither. I'm just more so curious for like your thoughts first, because you were the one that experienced the game first.
I just like
So I'd like to hear
how
your.
I just like how the story justifies its gameplay. Here is this warrior who is trained and taught to face your opponents up front, and he's unfortunately to his uncle, Jin, he sees the benefit of doing what his culture deems dishonorable. How being more tactical, cunning, and stealthy is allows you to accomplish your goals with with the benefit of saving saving not just the lives of civilians but also preventing the deaths of other samurai.
Very true. Because to be honest here, I mean, I don't necessarily believe that like the story was like, you know, bad formulaic or anything. I mean, like it is for all intents and purposes a revenge story. Whether or not like the revenge story plays out in a positive or in a negative outcome, that's just kind of like the more or less the surprise at the end. But I do definitely agree that it really does, you know, mesh in really well with how like the gameplay itself works. Like being forced essentially to witness a samurai have to abandon all these notions that no matter what, honor must prevail. It is definitely the most gripping aspect to this story. And not necessarily for, you know, like the fact that, you know, it's like the Mongols that like, you know, invaded Jin's home and like everybody's home like on this small island. No, it was the fact that you see this internal struggle and you see it play out pretty damn well throughout for like, you know, from start to finish. And you see the frustrations with, you know, trying to get people to understand that like, yes, I was one of those people that completely and utterly believed in honor. But if you've seen the stuff that I've seen, if you have tried to go through the stuff that I've done using the honorable way, you would have just straight up died. And unfortunately, I can't seem to change the people that are so dead set in their ways to see it from my perspective and thus are just willing to let people die for ideals.
And you see how this impacts the family dynamic.
Exactly. Exactly. Which is definitely what makes that final encounter all the more like just it's just sad. It's frustrating for sure because it's like, are you kidding me? After everything that we have done, after everything that I have done to show you that this dishonorable path is not as bad as you make it seem, you still can't bring it in your heart to just accept, even for a little bit, that it led to a good outcome and you still have to fight to the death. Like, come on, dude. Like, these old guys so dead set in their ways. And that being the key word right there. Dead set. They will
Stubborn.
die. Their stubbornness will lead to their deaths. And that's the part that, yeah, you can definitely, like, you know, as the player, you can definitely feel the frustration, not only for yourself, but to actually see that frustration on Jin's face as well throughout the course of the story. Like, you really do feel it. I think that the gameplay being like being able to evoke those emotions from you definitely did its job well, for sure.
Because for as much as this story is about the Mongol invasion, or at least a fictionalized version of it, just based on historical events, it is a lot of it is a family drama.
Yeah, I was gonna say like it's pretty much like kind of on the back burner in comparison to like the struggles, the drama that ends up being shown due to your actions, due to like, you know, the things that you have to do to uh to liberate the island of Tsushima. Like, oh yeah, yeah, there's a bunch of, you know, Mongols that have invaded our home, but like even if that is technically on the back of everyone's mind and that's not something that can like go away, our focus isn't solely on that. Our focus is literally on seeing character struggles in that family drama you mentioned. That's not to say it's necessarily a bad thing. It does, you know, balance the two of them. But the focus being on those two aspects, I think that that's what makes this story memorable.
And
You go from being in. Sorry, go ahead.
what I find ironic is that yeah, you have a stubborn uncle, but then you also got Ishikawa who has trained samurai, and you have Makoto who was married to samurai, and they are much more open to Jin's new way of resolving conflict. They're not as they're not as they're not
Stubborn.
necessarily yeah they're not as stubborn. They're not necessarily held down to this idea of tradition. For Makoto, it kind of makes sense because she's pretty much lost everything. For Ishikawa, well, it's Ishikawa.
See, that's the thing that. I'm sorry, it's because Ishikawa is one hell of a very unlikable, stubborn old man. But I feel like Ishikawa is the one that does not make any sense to me whatsoever. Like, yes, one of his former pupils goes ahead and uses pretty much all of his techniques against him, starts teaching the Mongol army how to, you know, use these techniques efficiently. And she does this, you know, in order to survive and everything. But, like, I just kind of, you know, thinking back on his entire quest line, I'm just thinking to myself, throughout every single one of his insults that he hurls at Jin, and throughout every single one of his lessons that he tries to impart onto us players, um, at what point exactly did he somehow change his mind and just went ahead and was like, "Yeah, I support you, like however you do this." How did all of a sudden a dude like that become so open? Because he's literally the closest thing to your uncle as stubbornness can go.
Well, I think they're stubborn for different reasons. Uncle Uncle is stubborn because he he's stubborn because for I guess for the sake of upholding the status quo, for the sake of upholding tradition. Ishikawa is stubborn because he believes that he's stubborn because he does not want to admit that he's at fault for any of the nonsense that occurs.
I can't tell which exactly is worse.
I'm leaning towards Ishikawa just because I had a supervisor who was very similar and pissed off everyone.
I was gonna say like if I was forced to choose, I would choose Ishikawa just because he was incredibly selfish.
There we go, that's it. Ishikawa is stubborn because of very selfish reasons. Uncle was selfish because uphold he wanted to essentially follow what society has established.
I wish I could say that there's nothing wrong with that, but when you have a literal invasion on your home and the your established ways are not working despite them having worked in the past, like dude, open your eyes. Do you see all of this death and destruction that's going on? You gotta try something new. I know. And thus we get the family drama aspect of Ghost of Tsushima. So yeah, story wise, I guess like overall, the main draw to Ghost of Tsushima was the whole aspect of like, okay, you go from being an honorable samurai to basically an assassin, a
Mm-hmm.
ninja. That, thematically speaking, was the main draw to Ghost of Tsushima.
But then
And
you
I got that.
actually, but then you actually play the game, and you stay for the family drama.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Agreed. It's like we already know exactly, like maybe not exactly what happens, like the whole Mongol invasion, perhaps, like, being able to look at it in hindsight. It's more so like um this fictional story with these fictional characters, being able to actually see like, what happens with them that makes this the biggest reason for why you stay for the story. So I definitely agree with you on that aspect for sure. And I guess just like because we kind of like briefly touched upon it, like the characters. Jinsakai, poor dude. Definitely very memorable for his overall journey from having gone through an entire life's worth of being drilled the doctrine of, just honor, justice, and just everything good and transparent about being a samurai, and then going into using shadowy maneuvers, deceitful tactics in order to save his home and the people within it. It's sad, yes, but it needs to be done. It is so difficult to have to wrestle with your identity, something that has been drilled into oneself for so long. But the necessity comes up, and you cannot truly fight it. If you do, consequences happen. I mean, just look at what happened with Uncle and the whole what is it? His own home and blowing up that bridge.
Yes.
I do definitely think that Jinsakai was, for all intents and purposes, within the context of Ghost of Tsushima, he is a living legend.
Yes. Especially since this game is based on historical events. Yeah, it kind of does make sense that, hey, here's this person who, fictional person and a fictional interpretation in history of history. Yeah, I could see him in this alternate historic universe. Yeah, he goes down as a living legend, and may or may not have some Easter eggs in Ghost of Yotei.
And now I'm kind of wondering, like, okay, what's gonna be the Easter egg? Is it gonna be the sword? Is it gonna be the mask? The the Sakai family emblem?
The armor.
The armor too. Also, a side note, I'm not a fan of like the ultimate armor being some kind of weird uh con- amalgamation of like different colors or whatever. That makes no sense to me. I'll just stick with the black armor. Heck, I don't even know why white armor exists unless you literally just confining yourself to snowy regions. But that's a whole other thing.
Yes.
And then the people that you recruit, Masako. Oh my god. I feel like of the two um teachers, well, quote unquote teachers that like that you're able to, recruit to your cause, I feel like she was just the saddest for sure. Having an entire family just executed based off of another family member's jealousy,
Mm-hmm.
that's hardcore.
And now two entire clans are,
Wiped out.
yeah, they no longer continue in the history books.
Mm-hmm. Thanks. What was her name again? Hana? Lady Hana, I
Yes.
think? Yeah. Well, thanks, Lady Hana. Ishikawa, I mean, we went over just his selfishness, his just overall propensity to never, ever, ever acknowledge that he might even remotely be at fault. That's you could definitely you could definitely label that as one of the most annoying aspects to his character. You could probably make a compelling case for why that is like probably the best or maybe most important aspect to him. For me, I was just straight up annoyed that like no matter what, I have an old man here by my side that just will not stop hurling insults at me as like, "Oh, you don't know anything." It's like, "Oh, you're doing it all wrong." It's like, "Huh, you now I'm remembering why I never took you in as a pupil," or something like that. It's like, "Old man, shut the hell up. Acknowledge that you did something wrong. You basically raised the killing machine. You got to live with the consequences of your actions."
Not only did
Now I'm forced to have to help you out dealing with this freaking problem of yours.
not only did he raise the killing machine, he tried to make her his daughter. I would not be surprised if something else was going on in the background.
Yeah, something was implied. I'm not quite sure what to feel about that though.
Ishikawa, if she says no, it means no.
You stubborn old man. God, I'm turning into Carmilla from freaking Castlevania. But anyways, um, and then we move on to, oh my god, Yuna, good old Yuna.
From
I'm sorry, I have to say this. I have to say this. I'm so disappointed that we make it to the end of the game. We make it to the end of the DLC. Nothing happens with her.
I will.
Nothing remotely meaningful.
Yeah, I thought we were gonna get a cutscene of her on the boat and she officially leaves Tsushima Island.
I would have at least like I personally would have enjoyed being able to have that as, finally being able to accomplish her dream of moving off to the mainland and starting a new life and everything. But no, you literally just make it to that one shack that's in, I think it was like the second island that I found by pure accident, but cool hideout anyways. You literally make it to that one shack. You exchange final goodbyes that feel so empty in execution, and then you never see her again. Like, no hug, not even a freaking kiss. Like, what the hell, dude? Nothing. Not a single bit of meaningful interaction with Yuna, and she's just gone. Literally. The only good interaction that we had with her was them having final drinks before the Yarikawa siege. That was it.
Maybe the Yuna storyline's being saved for the movie or the anime.
See, here comes my issue with stuff like that. It's like, why are they saving this stuff for media outside of the game?
Well, do you think that that was the intention?
I genuinely would find it hard to believe that from basically the start of Sucker Punch's start with production on Ghost of Tsushima to its release and even to the release of the DLC, I find it very difficult to believe that in that time they knew they wanted to get some more media out to wrap up loose ends.
Correct. I would like to think the same thing.
So what the heck? But I mean, I did genuinely like, enjoy her character. I especially like when you help her out with like her own personal quest line, and she comes to terms with like finally confronting the one person that essentially started her and her brother on this path that they got to in life. It was definitely like satisfying to be able to help her out, and just like as a side character who helps out Jin and also helps him ease into the mindset of like, okay, you gotta do what you gotta do. She was a good character. Every time like she came on screen, I was genuinely looking forward to the interactions that I would get with her and her brother. Was her brother's name again? It was Tomo, Tomoe, or something like that.
I was about to say Kenji, but like, no, that's another character.
No, good old Kenji. But yeah, no, it's for real though. What was Yuna's brother's name? Poor dude did not deserve what happened to him. He was such a kind soul.
Taka.
Aka, okay. I don't know why I thought Tomoe. No, Tomoe was freaking uh wasn't that Ishikawa's student?
Yes.
Okay, there we go. Sorry. But I'm very certain that's also the name of a character in Neo, which you are going to play hopefully sometime soon. But I digress. So yeah, her and her brother did not deserve to go out the way that he did. He really was just a kind soul that just wanted to help. And even when he was not as nearly as brave as Jin or Yuna, he tried for you.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what definitely makes his death a lot more impactful, is because he came out of his shell to fight for a cause that initially Yuna didn't even want to fight for. She just wanted survival for the both of them. But he, stayed behind to do what he felt was right. I will definitely uh mourn his character as a death that it shouldn't have happened, but if it's what motivates, Yuna to stay and to continue fighting, even if it was for revenge, at the very least, it did serve that purpose. But still,
Mm-hmm.
he was a good character. I
It,
definitely liked him.
it was done for the sake of character development, plot progression. Well, actually, I don't
Hmm.
know about the plot progression part.
I think just the plot progression, in the sense that like you can finally, well, not finally convince her, but Yuna will stay for good to see this through to the end, instead of leaving like she wanted to. I think that was more or less like the plot progression ish
I think
aspect.
I think that still falls under character.
Oh yeah, maybe you're right.
By the way, we're at an hour and 51 minutes. How much longer you want to go?
Okay, so we talked about. Alright, so this aspect I'm assuming you're gonna cut out. So we talked about story, characters, gameplay, cinematic. Um, I think its impact. Its impact on you, on us. How would you rank this? Okay, so like, okay, here's my last question to you for Ghost of Tsushima. Because you recommended this game to me. How would you feel this ranks in your top 25? Does it make it to top 25
Okay.
or
So this is something I have been doing ever since we made our top 25 games list. Every time I finish a game, I then go back to my top 25 and then ask, would this make it? But to be fair, sometimes I do need the game to like sit, to simmer. I need to have the honeymoon phase. I need the recency bias gone so I can have a fair assessment. And for me, since I completed it, what was it, like back in like March, April? Yeah, I've had some time to sit down and reflect on it. I look at my top 25 and I think maybe it could. Maybe it could. Top 30? Very likely. 25? I would need to do a bit more thinking and see how it fares to some of the other games in my top 25 between like Hades, Final Fantasy 14, Xenoblade 1, Marvel vs. Capcom 3. And those are all drastically different games from one another.
sure.
So
And
it.
you know what? Go ahead.
No, you.
I was gonna say like as you were basically saying like okay like definitely like has the potential to make it to your top 30. You might maybe have to think a little bit more on your top 25. I'm not even gonna lie, dude. I'm in the exact same camp. I'm in the exact same camp. I know for sure that like at the very least, if I were to make a top 30, it would most likely end up being in that top 30. But now I have to really like decide for like I have to think a little bit more. Okay, it make it to that top 25, and if it did, what game would I want to sacrifice or would I be willing to sacrifice in order for Ghost of Tsushima to have a place on that top 25?
Oh, and
Because
one.
numerically speaking, I have no idea. But now I'm just thinking to myself, like, okay, what game do I probably not have like as much of a fond experience or as much had of a good experience playing it as I did with like Ghost of Tsushima for it to be on the list? Something along those lines.
Something that I wanna elaborate on is, so you and I are both saying top 30, very very likely. 25, we need a bit more thinking. So for me, I'm not confirming that Ghost of Tsushima does not make my top 10. It does not make my top 15. I I am saying that for it to be anywhere on that chart, I just need to do some more thinking and reflecting and comparing
Yes, because
and comparisons.
yes, absolutely. Because even when I completed the game like all the way back in like really late May, I still feel like I haven't really had like a whole lot of time to really think about like just my overall experience with it. Because I'm still thinking about like, how cool of a game it was, and it absolutely was a cool game. But to have to pit it against every single one of my top 25, that definitely requires a lot more time than honestly I thought it would be. Like even like freaking like 4 months after uh playing it, it's very difficult. It's very difficult to say whether or not like it definitively makes it onto that top 25. Not saying it doesn't have that potential, but like you said, we require a lot more thinking about it.
Ghost of Tsushima versus Resident Evil 4.
Oh,
See, that's your
you really want to do that?
that's your
You really
that's your dilemma.
Yeah. What's yours?
Uh,
Ghost of Tsushima versus.
I mean, I'm thinking about them individually. Ghost of Tsushima
Mhm.
versus Borderlands 2. Ghost of Tsushima versus Kingdom Hearts Birth by Sleep. Ghost of Tsushima versus Near Replicant.
If there's even remotely a chance that any one of them you will pick Ghost of Tsushima, then yeah, right there. Then it most likely ends up making it into your top 25. Like there's like here's the bottom line when it comes to Ghost of Tsushima, at least for me. There's no denying that it is a great game.
Hmm.
I'm just kind of more so in the camp of I went into it not really knowing like whether or not to be completely and utterly excited for it, like completely hyped for it. Like I just kind of like had like, a sort of whatever thoughts on Ghost of Tsushima and I came out thinking, damn, that was a much better, much cooler experience than I had anticipated for this game to be. Now what do I do? How do I acknowledge it? It was fantastic in almost every single regard, but there are still issues, like some things about it that just like make me legitimately wonder whether or not it can, compete against my top 25.
But I think,
Which now,
but,
like you,
but I think,
I'm
I think you and I can agree that it's still not going to overtake our number ones.
no.
No.
I'm sorry, but no. Everybody that says like, oh, like Ghost of Tsushima is my favorite game of all time, I immediately think to myself, that's not me. Like without a doubt, that is not me. It is not my favorite game of all time. Like I can't tell whether or not people say that because of recency bias or whether or not they've like actually not played any games that come nearly as close to being as good as Ghost of Tsushima. But for me, I know for certain it's not my number one. And it's not your number one either, I'm guessing.
No. So, here,
Nothing beats New Vegas.
here's how I'm thinking of it is here on any random day, I'm sitting down, I'm kind of bored. Let's let's kill the boredom with some video games. Am I more likely to be in the mood to play Ghost of Tsushima, or am I more likely to start a third or fourth playthrough of New Vegas? I'm going with New Vegas. I'm not even hesitating. It's just New Vegas.
I'm going with Resident Evil 6 Mercenaries. But it's so much black, but it's here's the thing, and I feel like Ghost of Tsushima is one of those games where I have to play very sparingly. It's like how I treat my movies. I don't like watching them over and over and over and over and over again. No, I need a lot of time in between in order for me to truly be able to like enjoy it as much as I possibly can. With Ghost of Tsushima, it's not one of those games that I can just come back to repeatedly over and over and over again and still have like, that same experience all throughout. It's a
Uh,
damn good game for certain, but I don't know if I would want to do multiple playthroughs. Or I don't know if I'm in your situation where it's like, okay, I'm sitting down, I want a game to play. Do I want to play Ghost of Tsushima? Very likely not. I want to play something else. It's not a bad game per se. It's just when I compare it to all of the other games that are like, on my list, now that's where genuine debate comes into play.
Here's another way of looking at it. you've officially you've reached the end credits of Ghost of Tsushima. Are you immediately motivated to start the game again? Immediately. Second playthrough right there and then. Because I've only had a few games where I have gotten that feeling, and Ghost of Tsushima is just not one of them.
Agreed. God, now I feel like I'm painting Ghost of Tsushima in a bad light, but I'm not.
No.
Like I'm not. It's a wonderful game. Completely wonderful game.
Okay, so for comparison, my second favorite game, Persona 3 FES. When I finished that game, was I immediately in the mood to start a second playthrough? No, because it was already a lengthy game, and plus, man, those were some heavy emotions at the very end. It's not
Right.
it's not a it's not like Persona 3 FES and Ghost of Tsushima. It's those kinds of games where I'm I'm, I'm not saying that they're not replayable. They're just not meant to be. They're not meant to be, I guess, played that frequently. It's not a McDonald's. It's not something that's quick and easy and accessible. It is a much more refined dining experience that you re-experience on rare occasions.
I love that comparison. That's perfect. That's perfect right there. I love that comparison. I think you nailed it with that actually. Yeah, I agree with you. I really do. um when I go back to Ghost of Tsushima, I don't want it to be very soon. I want it like I would want it to be like as close to like a fresh experience as I can possibly make it. It's not like I haven't even gotten into the multiplayer yet, but at least for like its story, it's not something that I immediately want to go through all over again and play through it once more.
Mm-hmm. I'm feeling the same way. It's like I will I replay it? Yes. When? Uh, I don't know. And
I feel like the
not only do you and I have a lengthy backlog to get through, we also just need to let Ghost of Tsushima just like simmer in the background. It's a restaurant we will eventually come back to.
but we know for sure like we're gonna end up coming back to it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, good. Freaking comparison. Thank you for recommending me Ghost of Tsushima. For all that I say about like, debating whether or not it makes it into my top 25 or even like top 30, this was a game that I'm very glad that I played. And I'm very glad that you recommended to me.
You're welcome.